What is a plant? Eukaryotic, multicellular, autotroph, non-motile, and one of the important characters is that it develops from embryo as known as plant. A plant is an organism that has the following characteristics. A. Chlorophyll. A and B. Uses starch as a storage molecule. 2. Anterior whiplash flagella, these are lost in some land plants. All plants form one lineage, fungi, red and brown algae, and a few other small groups are not included. What is plant systematics? The study of kinds and diversity of organisms and the evolutionary relationships among them is called systematics or taxonomy. The study systematics gives the order and relationships among the organism. This order and relationship arise from evolutionary processes. These studies also give description of the new species. It organizes the animals into groups taxa. This grouping is based on degree of evolutionary relatedness. Theophrastus, father of botany. Theophrastus 372–287 BC, father of botany, made a pioneering attempt to place his knowledge of plants on scientific footing. He arranged the plants in several groups. He named and described some 500 plants in his book De Historia Plantarum. The diversity of plant life on Earth, including variation from the level of genes within an individual to individuals, populations, species, and above. Aim of systematics. The primary aim of systematics: discover all the branches of the tree of life, document evolutionary changes occurring along those branches, and describe all the species on Earth, the tips of the branches. Secondary aims of systematics: to analyze and synthesize information into a classification that reflects evolutionary relationships, to organize this information into a useful, retrievable form, to gain insight into evolutionary processes that lead to diversity. The approach that we're taking to plant systematics is a phylogenetic approach. Phylogeny. A phylogeny is the evolutionary history of a group of organisms. The phylogenetic approach makes assumptions evolution has occurred and is an ongoing process. Evolutionary modifications arise within lineages. Why is systematics important? A. Systematics is fundamental to our understanding of the world around us because provides the basis for understanding the patterns of diversity on Earth. B. Systematics provides the basis for communication about all living things. C. Understanding patterns of diversity provides us with a basis for testing hypotheses of evolutionary processes. Biologists differentiate between systematics and taxonomy. They believe a taxonomy, the original description of species, is called taxonomy. Taxonomy or systematic is based on two aspects. A. Morphology. The modern classification system has been given by Carolus Linnaeus. This system of classification is still used today. Carolus Linnaeus believed that different species can be grouped into same categories on the basis of similarities between them. The group of animal with similar characteristics forms a taxon. Carolus Linnaeus recognized 5 taxa. Modern taxonomists use 8 taxa, including earlier 5 taxa. The taxa are arranged hierarchically. These taxa are kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. B. Evolution. Carolus Linnaeus did not accept evolution. But still many of his groupings show evolutionary relationships. Morphological similarities between two animals have a genetic basis. It gives rise common evolutionary history. Thus the animals are grouped according to similar characteristics. The members of the same taxonomic group are more closely related to each other than two members of different taxa. Objectives of plant taxonomy. The first object of plant taxonomy is to identify all the kinds of plants on Earth with their names, distinctions, distribution, habit, characteristics, and affinities. It also tries to correlate the studies with scientific data contributed by various researchers in the field of botanical science. It gives an accumulated information and scientific knowledge of the world's plant resources. The second objective is to arrange the kinds of plants into a scheme of classification or an orderly arrangement. There are some species that are closely related to each other than others. Such species are placed in a higher group. Similarly, the closely related higher groups to still higher groups, and so on. The third objective is to study the factors of evolution to find out the origin of species and their interrelationships. Hence, a taxonomist not only studies the species existing today but also reveals the changes that they have undergone through the past. The fourth objective of plant taxonomy is the correct naming of plants according to the International Code of Nomenclature. The naming of the plant is guided and regulated by international rules of botanical nomenclature. In this system, to every plant a binomial name is given, e.g., Ciceraritinum. First name refers to its genus, the second to its species, Alpha Linnaeus the name of the person or author who first observed and reported the plant, the fifth is the documentation which includes the preservation of living or fossil flora in a herbarium. Manson et al. 1950, in his paper Taxonomy, Systematic Botany and Biosystematics, thought that the science of taxonomy may be a synthesis of four interrelated fields with systematic botany. It is the fact-finding field of taxonomy which includes genetically and cytological studies as well as other techniques applicable to the problem. The taxonomic system, it is based on the facts found by systematic botany and includes phase A. Taxonomic concepts of plant groups or taxa, B. Concepts of the evolutionary sequence of characters, C. Classification and arrangement of taxa, D. Description of taxa and phytography. Nomenclature, it is a method of naming plants based on international rules which permit only a single valid name for each kind of plant. Documentation, it includes the preservation of living or fossil type specimens and illustrations in a museum or herbarium. By all these fields of plant taxonomy light has already been thrown on plant or plant population, their units, interrelationship, distribution and evolutionary tendencies. Principles of plant taxonomy. Taxonomy is a functional science. The direction and character of its functions are governed by principles. The principles developed with the increase in knowledge of plants themselves. The principles are as follows. Descriptive taxonomy, it developed in the 19th century. This was mainly concerned with the observation of similarities and differences in the gross morphological characters of plants known at the time. This began with the works of Tournefort, Delgesieu and Linnaeus. In this principle, the plants were described and classified on the basis of morphological characters. Experimental taxonomy. This principle was introduced in the 20th century. Primary importance was given to morphological distinctness and affinity, but it was influenced appreciably by the findings of cytologist, geneticist, anatomist, physiologist and embryologist. Phylogeny. Modern taxonomists of the 20th century use phylogeny as the main principle of plant taxonomy. Phylogeny is the evolutionary history of a taxon. By this principle, attempt is made to account for the origin and development of species. To determine the origin of a species, a taxonomist has to depend on the science of paleobotany, which includes all taxa of extinct plant groups. Classification of plant taxonomy. Classification is the ordering of organisms into groups or sets on the basis of their relationships, i.e., phylogenetic relationship.